There she is.
Hi.
There she is. Yay.
We found it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of The Blithe and the Blind.
I do that every time.
You'll get the hang of it eventually.
I won't.
It's only episode 9, so you know.
Well, yeah. For you, yeah.
So welcome to this week's episode of The Blithe and the Blind. I am Joy.
I'm Julie. I'm the blind one.
And I am not.
Yeah. So thanks for coming. We appreciate you. Okay,
that was a great time. Let's get back again next week. So
yeah, let's do it again. Let's do it again.
For our friends who keep returning to listen to us every week, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
And they do keep coming back.
Yeah, and for those of you who aren't here every week, welcome
to the
this is your first episode. If it isn't, I mean, you may not listen to us regularly, but you may come across us every once in a while. So shout out to you guys too. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm having a ponytail moment. It's like I'm playing with it. I don't know why.
You feel a little better now?
No.
Just a little bit better?
I don't know. It's either it's in a weird spot. It's not in a normal spot. So it keeps whacking me. Anyway.
Is it throwing you off?
It's a little bit. It's like I'm feeling it in places I normally don't because it must be a little lower or my hair's got longer. I don't know. Sorry. Hi, shiny. Welcome.
Anyways.
This is why we don't record in the same room, y'all.
I still just let her do her own thing.
Yeah, well, it's like you could control it. Yeah. Your dad would love to learn that technique. Anyway.
This week, we are going to be talking about misconceptions. Yes. But more specifically, I believe we actually wanted to talk about our own misconceptions about disabled people, the disabled community, and kind of how we may have addressed that through our experiences thus far.
Yeah. So we have had the opportunity throughout, I know, my life, your life, in this household's lifetime, to be part of different handicap communities for short amounts of time, right? So like we've had people in the house who are wheelchair bound. We've known and loved them and been very close to them who are wheelchair bound. People who have sight issues. People who have hearing issues.
People who have hearing and sight issues.
Hearing and sight issues. We have a member of the family who is blind deaf.
So fun to scare them.
Yeah, well, it's true. And we have had we've had sign language to a point. We are not fluent in any way, but we are learning to be more fluent.
Baby sign.
Yes, we know some baby sign.
I remember teach.
Yeah, that we learned. We have taught others some baby sign or some sign language to communicate better to each other. We've used it in vacation Bible school stuff. We've used it in that kind of stuff to perform.
We also have family members and friends with, it's like speech delays or attention issues, which you may or may have not noticed at the very beginning of this episode. And when I throw out the word disability, I do also consider, like depression and anxiety, because those can be debilitating for some people.
Yeah.
We've dealt with that in our lovely little foray of in our portfolio, if you will.
Yeah, we have someone who goes nonverbal when they get super stressed. It's not them. It's another person.
It's true.
Yeah. So
I only do it in extreme cases.
and normally it's because they're trying to edit what they're saying and their brains get locked.
Yeah.
So, and that's been since birth. Like there's so many words that when you try
none of them are nice.
Well, sometimes
not nice.
When they're upset and all that, we always considered it I don't know, remember this, but it was a funnel.
Yeah.
Like you have all these things, and then when you get upset, it gets jammed. Yeah. So you have to take a second and realign things, and then go. Just give me a second and let me realign and let the words come out. They're always masterfully colorful, but editing needs to happen. That's all.
We'll come back to that later.
Yeah, but as a misconception that I know I had, so once again, I'm the blind one. So I grew up with people who had vision issues, and it is one of the things that you can attempt to explain to people, but if you don't get it, you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by don't get it, like see last episode, there is no quantifier to have you understand what is happening when they can't explain it to you. So you have to assume certain things, right? Mm-hmm. So for example, my mother, my grandmother, my aunt all had the same thing I have. Genetics, it's a beautiful thing. You're welcome.
I'm looking forward to it.
Good news is you have more tools than what they did. I have more tools than what they did, yes. And you're going to have more tools than what I have. So the way it was explained to me was if you took your fists and you put them in front of your eyeballs, and that's how they see the world. Well, it's more complicated than that, of course. But that was how their eyesight was described to me. So I literally thought everything was black, and you're looking around it as much as you can. The reality is it looks more like...
Did you bring your glasses?
I didn't take them out of the case, so I'm going to be dramatic about it.
The reveal.
It's the Tupperware. So it's really more like seeing life through these, which looks... It's reflective, but it looks like... I'll bring them down a little. Maybe that'll help. You're looking through life like... See if I can get it in front of the camera.
There you go. A little over. Nope, other way. There you go.
So every time your eyes move, that's what you're seeing with it. I also have a couple other things in there, but that is a close proximity to how I see the world. Now, is it a complete blindness? No, that is a rare thing. People are born with that, or it's a traumatic event, or it will eventually get that way. So the complete blind sees nothing is more rare than you think. It's out there, but it's the
it's the minority.
Stereotypical way we think of blind people is different than the majority of blind people out there. So living it is a whole different thing, and you end up explaining it to a lot of people a lot of the time. Yes, I can. I know you're there, but so I know things are there. Like I know where my camera is. I know where my keyboard is. I still do lots of things, right? So that's another misconception with blind people.
Whether she should or shouldn't.
Well, that's a hidden disability issue, not a... For example, I do a lot of construction stuff. And by construction stuff, I mean like home reno stuff.
Those lesbian vibes.
It's true. I'm a Lowe's lesbian. I don't even try to hide that, y'all. You've been with me. You know,
it's a good energy to be around.
It's totally like I'm on a mission and I go. But like I use power tools and I use all kinds of stuff, right? And I do all kinds of stuff, and I do a lot of it solo, mostly because I'm a control freak. Wonder where she gets that.
You're not a control freak.
But I want to make sure it's done the way that I see it in my head. So yes, having said all that,
she built a door.
That was, I built a door from scratch. I'm so freaking proud of that door. It's sickening how proud I am of that door. But the point being that, you know, a few years ago, would I have thought in a million years, or would you have thought in a million years, well, okay, well, mom can't see a whole lot, so let's give her some power tools.
So, to be fair,
yes,
dear viewer, dear listener, it's freaking hysterical to watch her sometimes with the power tools. And it's not because it's like, oh, she's dangerous. She was dangerous with her sight, too.
It's true. Like, I'm 4'11", and I don't have a lot of height or girth. I have more girth.
She's doing something, and the motion is this. Because she can't reach it unless she bounces. And so
I shift. Yeah. I take steps and steps.
And
it's like a dance.
Because it's also like, oh, but I need weight on this to make it work a little better.
Yeah.
So it's like a little bounce.
I have to put all my weight on it to get it to go. Yeah.
So like, yeah, no, typically I'm not like, sure, give the blind lady a power tool, but
yeah,
it's the same watching her with her sight and with her with less sight.
Yeah.
So you know what? Let her have at it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and having said that, even going to like, and I think I've mentioned it a little bit before, like when I'm out and traveling, because I travel by myself still while I can, I do it. I get a lot of people who have misconceptions about, well, I still journal and I still draw and I paint and I write postcards back home. And I get questioned on the constant about that when I'm out. That I wouldn't have thought about. I use my computers every day. I don't always use voiceover and narration because I'm used to doing it a certain way. So I want to still do it that way. Habitual people that we are.
And yet, when we're home, you still hand me a pen and go, write this down for me.
Sometimes, and it's frustrating for those I live with because sometimes
the only time it's frustrating is when I know it's just because you don't want to write it. You don't want to write it.
This, would you?
I could write this. It's to-do list for me, but I don't want to. So if I just say it, will you write it?
But sometimes it's because my eyes are tired, and sometimes it's because I've seen my handwriting recently, and it is. I mean, you can confess my handwriting is getting so much worse. And I used to joke about how bad my handwriting was. My handwriting was not bad. That's the Catholic school done in the back of my head. But it's getting so much worse that I overthink writing sometimes. So, but I think a lot of the misconception out there, I know the ones I had were, how functional as a blind person would I still be? And what will that look like? Because I know what it looked like for the people that I loved in my life that are now gone, and their lives became so much smaller on so many levels, right? So many things are taken, like driving and other things. For example, like if I drive, it's on a very bright day and I go run an errand and come back, as opposed to like run all your errands in a day. And I'm exhausted when I get home because I'm so focused on what I'm doing. I would never put anybody's life in danger. I don't have people in the car with me unless they're adults that volunteer to get in the car.
And even then, sometimes we don't realize she's driving until she gets in the driver's seat.
But
did that to me twice this week. She's like, you want to go with me to this place?
True.
Like, sure. I get out there and she's like, oh no, I can drive. And I'm like,
yeah,
I don't doubt it, but I thought you invited me because I was driving.
Sometimes I invite you just to spend time with your cheery freaking personality.
That's weird.
It is weird. It's weird because I'm with your cheery freaking personality all the time. But another misconception, because we live with somebody who's deafblind, is that all deaf people can't hear anything. Yeah. And sometimes it's just subjective.
I would say there are times where it's like, oh, I didn't hear you. I'm like, I know you did.
I know you did, bro.
You actively chose not to comprehend what I was saying.
Right.
Like, you chose not to process what I was saying. You just know I was talking.
Yes. And I can't remember. I may have shared the story. We'll have to go back in the archives and look. Did I share the story about the classroom?
No, I don't think so.
So this child of mine was in a classroom fifth,
not this grade. Child, different child.
No, different child. The specific one I'm speaking of was in a classroom where I was sorry, there's a hummingbird out there and he was very aggressive. So,
hello.
Yeah, I was like, well, you won't. I thought somebody was tapping on the window. No, hummingbird. They're aggressive. So this child was not this child, different child. So was in a classroom with the teacher. I was volunteering for the day in the classroom, and she had it. I didn't tell this story.
No, I don't think so.
So
I love the story though.
Absolutely had it. Like it had been. We lived in a different state, and it had been snowing.
It was what, like a third grade classroom too?
No, it's a 4th and 5th grade
Close
classroom
enough.
because there was a small amount of
Yeah.
people. It's like think tiny classroom size. I know y'all don't have that much anymore, but at the time it was a small classroom size, brand new school. So, like there were 36 children in the whole school, so we doubled up in classrooms too. Anyway, so 4th and 5th grade, and the kids were jerks all day. Y'all know how I feel about that.
End.
Yeah, they had not been outside. It was below whatever temperature. Couldn't let them outside for safety
Lake effect
reasons.
snow because it was in Ohio.
Yeah, and inches upon inches of snow, not like an inch or two. It was like it was pounding as with snow. And so the children were done. They were done being inside. They were done trying to listen, done trying to be good. They were done. It was a rough day. And she had every nerve being trounced on by every one of these children. And I was trying to help in the classroom, being a volunteer. Now let's add this on to, I was a co-founder of this school and on the school board.
And your kid was in that classroom.
And my kid was in that classroom. Oh yeah, I watched it happen. It was a mob mentality. They were all being jerks. So if you've ever been an educator or a parent in that kind of classroom, you're like, well, I am getting out fast and I need a drink after. So at some point, this teacher loses her ever-loving mind and screams at the children, "That's it. I've had enough. I'm done. I've said the same thing a million times. What are you people, deaf?" And my loving little child's hand starts going up. And she says, "Not today, Jerome. Today, you are just a 10-year-old. And I want everybody's head down. That's it. I need 5 minutes of quiet. And everybody's head goes down. And she turns around and I'm standing behind her laughing so hard. I could not keep my breath. I was just like, that was great. And she goes,
everything.
And all the blood drained from her face. And she was like, "And now I'm fired." And I went, "Absolutely not. Here's what I want you to do. I need you to go take a lap somewhere, smoke them if you got them, go to the break room, take a nappy nap. You do you as much as you can, because these kids and I are going to have a chat while you're gone." But she was like, "That's it. I'm done. It's nice knowing you.
You are not disabled for today."
I just yelled at this lady's child who's deaf and blind and told him, absolutely not today. You're not.
To be fair,
he
deserves it.
He totally did. It was great. I'm like, I will hold him down for you. I watched it happen, So she left the room. Everything was fine, but that was the perfect way to handle that, by the way. He was using it to try and get out of trouble. You're wrong. You're just being a jerk like everybody else. So her misconception.
He continued that trend.
Yeah, well, yeah. He's mastered the art of being a jerk.
But in the good way, not in the way that we don't like him.
Right.
It's in the way that you're like, you really just said that right now? Like,
he is
really?
a smart alecky pun master, and his humor is on point most of the time.
It's
like
so
90% of the time is perfect. So having said that, her misconception, besides a fantastic story, her misconception was, okay, I yelled at the deaf kid. No, you yelled at a kid being a jerk who happens to be deaf.
And blind.
Right? And blind. So on that day, he was just like everybody else, and that's okay. Right?
People genuinely forget that he is blind and deaf too.
Most people don't know.
Most people don't realize it, or they don't know, or they forget if they already knew it, because he literally just, he's a normal not normal.
He is not normal. Not even
a regular person, It's just another person you see out on the street.
Yeah. You would not, if you did not know what I said, you would never know. By the time he was in high school, I stopped talking to the teachers because he learned to be his own advocate.
Also,
which is
care.
Well, and it's not that I didn't care.
Not you.
It's that if he needed to speak up and say something, he needed to be the one to do that, because and I know people like high school, that's not, and they're still kids and all that. But this kid grew up knowing what his needs were and how to meet them, because that was an open discussion. So part of getting past a misconception for people is teaching them how to advocate for themselves, right?
And another misconception, and I said it earlier in this episode, it is so freaking fun to scare them. Granted, I'm the younger sibling. I have every right to do that.
Right.
Don't come for me. But also, it's the misconception that, like, disabled people can't make fun of their disability.
Oh, right.
If you do
100%.
it, you're a jerk. It's like, okay, no. Here's the deal. If you do it in the wrong way, if you're laughing at them because they are disabled, congrats, you're a horrible person, and I hope that hell has a special place for you.
Right,
but
right.
If you're sitting there and it's like, oh, I don't know, you ran into a tree in a lobby that's been there all week, and you start giggling and being like, well, you didn't see it there. That's different. That's funny. You've avoided that tree all week. You know
all week.
There.
Yeah, that was me. I ran into that tree. Yeah.
A fine example. I got tummy troubles, and one of the biggest misconceptions I had about my stuff was also the doctors had it. So to be fair, was that it was all related to a different anatomical process.
Yes.
I experience, I would say on a monthly basis, but that's a long story.
Right.
And it wasn't. I actually had a legitimate medical issue that people were dismissing.
And it took years.
And 13 to be exact.
Yeah.
To get anybody to finally do something about it and realize. It took until I was on my knees in the hallway because of such intense, sharp pain. And even then, it took 2 weeks and 10 doctors/hospital visits for somebody to be like, that sounds like this. And I was like,
right.
For 2 weeks, people were like, it's just the stomach flu. It can come back and reoccur. I'm like, thanks. I'm not stupid. It's not the stomach flu.
Right. But
we eventually got there. But the other thing is a big misconception is it's like, oh, well, you just have to change your diet and you'll be fine. Well, I did have to change my diet. That's correct. I had to change my diet.
Right.
And it helped. But if I didn't have the meds that you saw me probably taking earlier, it's when I did this, I'd still be in pain.
Yeah.
Every day, all the time, which is unpleasant. I don't recommend it. And also, I can eat some of the foods that I thought I wouldn't be able to.
Right.
As long as I'm taking my meds and I do it in a certain way.
Yeah, you're not going to like gang up on it.
Right. And don't get me, there are days when I eat things I shouldn't. I'm not technically supposed to have certain Mexican foods. Certain foods at all, but specifically Mexican food and alcohol. And you better believe I'm going to go get me a margarita and a taco sometime.
Yes.
But I'm going to avoid the foods that I know will set me off.
Yeah.
And I'm going to adjust it so that there aren't as many other triggers in the dish. I'll be all right.
Well,
at least.
the other part to that's a struggle is everybody assumes that what you struggle with, everybody who has what you have struggles with.
Well, and I was even going to say, tying it back to the joke thing, my friends know that certain foods make me upset. And Grace, I appreciate you calling me out for it every time I do it.
Well,
but they also are like, you're doing this to yourself. You recognize that. I'm like,
this is all on you, bud.
And then they make fun of me.
Right.
We're on the same page here. Yeah. You're being an idiot. I'm like, absolutely. They're like,
as long as
I'm going to make fun of you later.
You've done this to yourself.
Tell me your stomach hurts. That's a you problem. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm still going to say
right. Don't yell at me when you do that. Like you said that this morning to me. There are medicines I'm supposed to take because I have a muscle disorder. I'm sorry, a joint disorder that I was recently diagnosed with. And I have been in hyper-focus mode and have been off my schedule. And so I get up, I go do whatever on my schedule for the day. And it is different from whatever I've normally done habitually to take my meds. And I've forgotten them 2 days in a row. And
until late in the day.
Yeah. And then this morning, Joy was like, did you take your meds? I'm like, why are you asking? I'm like, duh. Of course I took my meds. I don't understand why you're asking me this.
But it's little things, and it's like you were saying. People, and I'm not saying my friends do. Y'all calm down, breathe, okay? Lamaze that out. You're fine. But there are a lot of people where if I do tell them like, oh yeah, I have this, then they're like, oh, I have that too, and this happens, and I'm like, that's not the same.
Yeah.
And it's not even, oh, that's not the same experience I have, so you don't have it. But what I'm sitting here and I'm like, no, you just eat like garbage.
Crap.
You
Yeah.
literally just eat like garbage. You don't
Like
eat
a
vegetables or
trash panda.
fruit.
Yeah.
You're only eating foods that are well known and like reported to clog up your system. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
But the other thing is, it's like, okay, I experience things that are kind of abnormal for what I have.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, my doctor even ordered some extra tests just to be sure it's not something else.
Right.
Because of what I'm describing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also one of those where it's like, okay, well, even if it is confirmed, like, hey, this is the diagnosis, that doesn't mean everybody that has it has the same symptom set as I do. Because there are like three different versions that a person could present for this particular I don't want to say disease, but disorder, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, that alone should remind people, hey, we're not going to experience the same thing as each other. And because I have it this way doesn't mean you will. You could have it, in this first way, and I could have it in the third way or whatever.
Right. It's like everything else. It's a spectrum. And that's the biggest thing that people need to put in their brains as far as misconceptions that they have, or thought processes on certain behaviors or disorders or handicaps or whatever, disabilities. I don't know. Once again, I'm comfortable with all of those things, but it's a spectrum, and some people have lighter versions of it or less severe versions of it, and other people have things that are like rando weird stuff. Once again, in the last, I'm sorry, did you have something to add? Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, because I was just going to bring up another misconception that I come across a lot. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I honestly held this misconception myself before all of this loveliness came to fruition in December.
Yep.
But a lot of people assume, and I know I've talked about it on here before, so don't come for me in the comments. A lot of people assume as soon as you say, oh, well, I can't eat gluten, they're like, oh, you have celiacs. No. So much like there are people with lactose intolerance, also me, what up? I am a winner, I know.
She's a golden girl.
I have a gluten intolerance.
Yes.
It just happens to be a pretty severe one.
Right.
And, it's a common misconception in a lot of illnesses that end up restricting your diet. Well, but you've been eating it for so long, so it clearly doesn't bother you. Why not just keep eating it? And it's like,
which is a fallacy. Yeah. Right.
That's what I'm saying. That's the misconception, is because it's been bothering me for the past, since I've been alive.
Right.
I didn't know that's what was bothering me. I didn't know it was that thing.
And so, you have a sister that's also lactose intolerant, and we never knew that she was lactose intolerant until she was an adult. And she's like, hey, guess what? I'm lactose intolerant. I'm like, well, that explains a lot.
And it's, like I said, it's one of those things where it's, okay, yeah, you may figure it out sooner rather than later. But, again, I just had a conversation recently with somebody, I haven't seen him forever. And they were like, well, but if you've been eating gluten this whole time and it hasn't done anything, why not? And I'm like, there are two good reasons. One, it has been bothering me. I just didn't know it was the gluten.
Right.
I just kept thinking I was eating too much. Two, which did not stop me. It never did. Two, I cut it out of my system just to see if that was it. Turns out, ha-cha. And the last time I ate gluten, it sent me to the ER because my system was not reacting well to it, and I ended up dehydrated because of that. Mm-hmm. So it turned into, all right, well, that's probably part of the problem.
Right.
We've confirmed.
Yeah.
And I've felt better since then, but that doesn't make it celiac. Does not make it celiac.
Right. Once again, it's a there's always a spectrum, right? So I know we touched on it last episode that we have somebody in our family, a 2-year-old specifically, who hits in that spectrum, right? There's lots of things. She goes on her own time. She does stuff her own way. It frustrates the medical community. She is an enigma in her own right on so many levels.
One of the family.
Yeah, she is a total enigma. Because a lot of the things that she has to deal with medically, like doctors have seen like one thing, but not this and this comorbidity, action. So she may have one thing and have another thing, but they've never seen it together, or they've seen it together, but not with this other thing. So she got a lot of stuff happening.
Again, she fits right in.
Yeah, but she's 2, and she signs, and the misconception with her is because she has a trach that she's non-communicative, and that is the total opposite of this child. Can I just say, she
She'll
has
let you know.
facial expressions that are beyond dramatic, and so I see a lot of theater in her future. That she gets, honestly, let me also say that for her. I know her mama, they dramatic. But she will communicate via sign, so she can hear you and she understands you as much as 2-year-olds understand you, and she will communicate to you. So, for example, her nurse likes to change her hair color. She is a full-time nurse, and the nurse likes to change her hair color a lot. And she changed her hair color over a weekend. And so she
came back to watch the kid.
Yeah, she came back to do her thing on Monday, and the child looked at her and went weird, like signed weird. And I can't remember the sign for weird right now. And hair, weird. And she was like, yeah, it's different. You mean different? And she goes, no, weird.
She's just, and then she's like, no.
No,
and then
weird.
She signed weird again.
And we're like, choices were made. Like, the sign for different, and you chose weird.
She knows how to say your hair looks different. She knows how to sign that to you. Your hair looks different. She decided to go, your hair looks weird.
Yeah. I was like, that's a read. That's a read from the 2-year-old. She does not care for your hair color. But the misconception is this child, if you saw her, would not be a snarky little jerk. And she was kind of a jerk.
Sweet as a button.
And then she smiles. Like, and then she wants hugs. And it's like, I want to hug you. You're being a jerk right now. Yeah. I don't like that. But to be around her, and see, because she goes out and about with her mom and runs errands and stuff, and they're ones, like, as we've talked about before, the education is always first. Her mom would love to be able to go out and not feel like she has to educate everybody in the world all the time with her.
People stare at her trach too, and it freaks people out because
it scares people.
Mm-hmm. You don't see that very often, and if you do, it's honest to God, a lot of people see it in the hospital, smokers, or in a hospital, but you don't see it really outside of the hospital a lot, especially not in a 2-year-old child.
Yeah, and when she gets mad, sometimes she pops off her circuit.
She literally rips it off.
Also a misconception. She needs it as support. She doesn't need it for full-time breathing. So once again, don't
not anymore, at least.
Yeah. So it's just know that it's there for support, but she
does it because it makes her machine make noise.
Yeah. If you're not listening to her, if you're not listening to her, watching her, doing whatever she wants you to do, she'll make something make noise, and that's one that'll make an emergency noise, which is hysterical because she just goes.
And she's got glasses, so if you're trying to tell her something, because her mom signs with her, of course, and if she's trying to tell her something and she doesn't want to hear it, she'll just she literally just takes them off, and it's like, put your glasses back on.
Or she'll turn around. It's the ultimate. Ignore.
You can still hear me.
Yeah, in the signing community, that's a big thing. They'll just turn away from you.
But her problem is, again, she can still hear what we're saying.
Yeah. You hear me. Well for her. You hear me just fine. So, but once again, it's that misconception. And I know I had it before. I hadn't spent a whole lot of time. I spent some, but not a whole lot of time around people with trachs, right? Or, and she has spina bifida. So there's certain things she can do with her body, upper body, but she can't do with her lower body. So it's all about support and making sure she's at a place where she can breathe right and not wiggling too much where she doesn't need it, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
And it makes me think too, I mean, and I think this one is breaking down, at least in the last few years, it's definitely broken down a lot more. But while, of course, ASL is majority, I believe, used by the deaf community, I mean, it's, it's their main, for a lot of people, it's their main way of communication within the deaf community. It's often used for nonverbal children and adults as well, because they have to be able to communicate in some way, shape, or form. They have to be able to tell somebody, if something bad were to happen, how can I tell you that when I can't use my voice?
Yeah, one of the first
way to do that is I know how to sign.
Yeah, one of the first signs that we taught your brother was help, right? Yeah. Help and stop. So at least you could get help from somebody, or you could tell them to stop doing something. Yeah. I mean, there's thank you and please and things like that, but and then I'm sorry, right? So please, and then sorry. And I'm no expert, so don't come at me if I'm doing it wrong. I'm still learning too. But there were certain signs that we taught them to make sure that if there was something happening, he could say that would trigger a word, stop, help, that kind of thing.
Just flipped your signs.
I did flip my signs. So help and stop. But at least in doing it, that gives his body something to think about.
Well, help. And the other thing to consider, and I guess this is a misconception I held for a while that I didn't really think about, but it's to go along with the nonverbal aspect of it. Small, like baby sign, first of all, incredibly helpful. I mean, not just for babies, but it's incredibly helpful, because the other thing to consider is we were talking about it a bit at the beginning of the episode, and I'm going to circle back to it. When I hit a certain level of frustration or overwhelm, and when I say overwhelm, I don't often mean like, oh my gosh, this is too much for me. I mean, I'm so overwhelmed with how angry I get, with how like rageful I get, and I'm using the word rageful for a reason. I can't express what I want to, and it makes it so much more difficult to be able to explain what the issue is. And I'm working on it. I'm 22 years old. I got a handle on it for the most part, but there are still times when I'm just like, no. So it turns into me just flailing my hands trying to be like, you just need to give me a minute. So, I mean, signs like that help as well, because, I can, if I'm really getting frustrated, I may unintentionally start baby signing a bit and be like, stop, stop, we need to stop it, and it's incredibly frustrating when you can't use your voice to explain or convey what it is. It's like you were talking about earlier with your macular degeneration, the glasses and everything. It's so, for lack of a better word, annoying when you try to explain what the issue is and somebody still doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of times with I don't know how I want to phrase this. A lot of times, basically, with the things that I deal with the most, one of which being like my anxiety, it just gets really, like, the words just get gummed up. It gets stuck. It's like when you're trying to, when you're trying to, like, if you're trying to put a puzzle together and you realize you have a piece in the wrong place, but you kind of already, like, shoved it into place to fit, now you can't get the pieces apart.
Right.
It gets stuck, and so it's finding different forms of communication to help with that even can be so incredibly difficult, especially when somebody hasn't offered something like, can you try and sign what you're doing? Like, can you sign what you need? Tell me what you need. And it's like, well, the words are stuck and I can't tell you what I need. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And I don't think I go nonverbal very often. I don't think I go very often. But
not anymore.
It's happening more and more medical settings for me recently.
Right.
And it happens for me a lot in medical settings when I feel like the doctors just are not listening to what I'm saying, because I end up in that mindset, and it's not healthy. Don't do it. But I end up in the mindset where I'm like, you're not going to listen to me, so why am I trying to talk to you about this?
Right. And that's an open discussion, because when you get frustrated and you shut down specifically and stop being your own advocate in a medical office, then that can go horribly awry. And sometimes the medical professionals, and this is not all of them, it's just sometimes as humans, we get into that cycle of, I'm listening, I'm doing, this is the same thing, so I'm going to say the same thing. It's not rote, but it is rote. But I've seen this a million times. This is, as a specialist, medical specialist, they see the same thing over and over and over and over and over. So the assumptions kick in. So then they ask a question and then answer it before you answer it, because it's once again, they see the same cycle over and over and over. Sometimes it's really okay to be like, I need you to stop talking and listen, because I'm not feeling heard. I'm feeling you just cycling through your answers. So I just need you to stop and listen to me and then speak. And that is so hard, no matter how strong of a personality you are, or no matter how strong you are in your own self to be an advocate. That's hard to do, to just stop. And the only way you get better at that is just to do it over and over again.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I've been placed in a position with medically complicated children that I've done that to doctors.
We are a strong family.
I've done that to doctors, and I have walked out on doctors, and I have dismissed doctors, and I have fired doctors for not allowing me to be my own advocate for myself or my children. And because I would expect people to do that to me if I was doing that or exhibiting that behavior.
And I guess another misconception, and I say misconception a little lightly in this scenario, but within the greater disability community, is I'm going to go into the doctor's office and they're not going to listen to me.
Oh,
you listen to the thing I say.
Already think they're not going to listen.
You go in with that mindset, and it
because they already proved they're not going to listen. It's already been years. She said 13 years. It's been 13 years.
But we got answers.
Because
I just kept going back, and it was the same symptoms every time. And every time, not to get a little gross on the main, but they were like, it's just your period. Get over it.
Yeah.
Like, you'll be okay. Take some Tylenol. And I'm like, okay, I'm telling you right now, I can feel where this is happening, and it is not happening in any
my uteral
of my uterus, any of that. It's not my ovaries. No.
Yeah.
Some of it was, I'm not going to lie, some of it was, but I got switched on medication that made that go away.
Yeah.
And certain things remained. That's why I was like, I've known this isn't that.
Right.
But you walk into a doctor's office, especially if you've already had experiences where they're just not listening to you, and they're not, and I'm not bashing my doctor's office. I love my doctor's office because they listen to me more than any other physician.
And we are very lucky that we have that. We have several physicians in one office that listen and listen and listen to the best of their ability.
And the only reason that I even call it a misconception, though, is because there are doctors out there who listen and they want to help you.
Yes.
But we also know through our own personal experiences and the experiences of people that we love and care about, there are a lot of doctors out there who don't, and they assume that they know what's wrong, and they assume that things are okay or whatever, because well, you haven't complained about it before, so if you say this is going on for this long, why haven't you said anything? And it's because I thought everybody did this.
Right.
So this is everybody experienced.
So here's another misconception. So I have a friend who has recently passed, and she spent a lot of years in and out of doctor's offices about over different things. And unfortunately, what she ran into was people immediately had misconceptions about her because she was overweight. And so the theme of weight came up all the time. She literally went in for an ear infection, and they were trying to tell her it was about her weight. I'm not sure why that has one to do with the other. It does not. She had a sinus infection. They wanted to talk about her weight. Her issues medically had nothing to do with her weight. Her weight ballooned up because of the medication she was on. They all know that's a side effect of certain medications, and that was never, if you're not going to address the problem I'm in here for, who cares what my weight is?
Yeah.
So that's a big deal for a lot of and it's unfortunate, but it's well tracked in the medical community. It's unfortunate. It's double unfortunate when you are born a female and you have to go to the doctor. It is also an issue. Misconceptions abound there. Having said all of that, misconceptions about the handicap community also happen in medical offices. I go to some of my doctor's appointments with my cane, and I go to others without it, and I've been questioned on the why behind it. I was actually handed forms, paper forms, in the last doctor's appointment I went to that they needed me to fill out while I was there. I'm not going to fill out paper on the spot while I'm there. I said, do you guys not have in your file that I'm visually impaired? Oh, yeah. So you're going to help me fill out this form?
And the other thing is, it's again, like you talked about, especially in the disability community, I see it a lot with people with physical disabilities. If they are, especially if they are heavier, the weight thing comes up a lot. Yeah. I mean, I've been told by doctors, I know you've been told by doctors, but I've been told by doctors, this might not be a problem if you lost some weight. And I'm like, do me a favor. I want you to check the meds I'm on daily and tell me which one is the side effect of weight gain, because 2 of them are steroids.
Right. I'm on prednisone. Guess what one of the main things is? Weight gain.
And I've got a lot of medical problems, so I'm single.
She right.
So I'm single.
Yes. She's a queer with some issues. Can I just say some issues? Yeah.
I've got a lot of medical problems. And one of them I'm more than happy to share is I am asthmatic as heck. I've said it before and I'll say it again.
And we live in Indiana.
Yeah. I can't breathe most days. Yeah. So it's like, well, I can. It's just it takes some effort. But anyway. Yeah.
And a lot of medication.
Respiratory infections, bronchitis, strep throat. I get those a lot because my upper respiratory system hates me. So
true.
I also get put on steroids like every other week, like strong steroids every other week, because fun fact, the stuff they usually prescribe does not send it out of my system anymore. My lungs and upper respiratory system have built immunity. So
that's part of being on steroids,
but that's the thing is, and sometimes doctors don't pay attention to that. Again, we've been blessed with a really good doctor's office and people who listen to the best of their ability. Mm-hmm. And if you look at them and you go, you're not listening to me, they will stop and they're like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I got in a rush and that's my fault. Like literally, the one particular, he will literally put down everything and like, I am so sorry. I came in with my own agenda. It's gone now. Let's talk or let's talk it out or whatever. Yeah.
I am that jackass at the doctor's office that if I come in with upper respiratory, I'm like, here's the options. I got bronchitis or upper respiratory. I can tell you that right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not telling them how to do their job. I just know how it feels at this point.
Well, right. When that's what you're used to. Yeah. But I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV. And I don't trust Dr. Google.
But when I've gone to doctors outside of our normal physician's office, oftentimes like, well, have you thought about losing weight? Because, that way your lungs wouldn't have so much pressure. I'm like, this has nothing to do with my weight.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm like, no, I'm asthmatic and look at the medications I gave you a list because I have it memorized at this point.
Right.
All like 7 things they have me on pretty regularly. I can put it down. I can put down the dosage because I have to.
It's looking past that preconceived notion, right? Yeah. It's putting past that to see where and we all have biases in our lives, but where is the bias lying and where do I need to adjust, right? So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And we all have them. I still have some, I'm going to be real honest. I still have some misconceptions about totally blind people. And how dumb is that? Because I'm going to be one of them like soon. What I mean by totally blind is only see grays and only see dark.
And I do want to point out, I want to throw out there before anybody tries to take my words out of context.
Yeah.
I'm fully aware that being overweight to a certain point can affect your health. I'm not saying that that's not a thing.
Yeah, but who hasn't watched my 600-pound live for 1,000-pound sisters? Come on, y'all. Y'all know who I'm talking about.
What I'm saying is, just because I'm a heavier weight than I should be, that doesn't mean that that's what's causing the problem. What's causing the problem is the fact that I have a crappy upper respiratory system and we live in Indiana.
Right.
Just how it goes.
And the weather chooses whatever personality it wants to wear that day.
And it's like you said, I still have internal biases about asthmatics and what they can and can't do. I use mine as an excuse at times, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I have biases about my stomach issues, and whether it's actually severe or not, I'm the one who can feel it, and some days I still lie to myself. I'm like, it's not a problem. It is.
Right. It ain't that bad.
Aware.
Yeah.
But I also still have those biases too, where I'm like, well, maybe I should lose a little weight because maybe that's what's this.
And that's
its own monkey.
Yeah, that's its own little
barrel.
thing.
That's its own monkey. Okay.
Yeah. That
circus knows me best. All right.
Yeah, that circus has a lot of monkeys there. But well, I know we've got a lot more misconceptions. We can hit on a few more next episode. I think what we were going to do, not just misconceptions, but we're going to talk about a few more misconceptions, and then we're going to start talking about the dumb things we hear people say.
It goes along with misconceptions well.
It sure does, because there are dumb things people say. Like,
face.
Are you kidding me, bro? You said, yeah, I'm like, you
with
said
an audience.
You said it to me, like in a room full of people. So, yeah, there's a lot of those, but we'll touch on more misconceptions because they go hand in hand, I think. We've got a lot of other misconceptions that we can talk about. Like I said, people in wheelchairs and how they're treated, because we've had that firsthand knowledge, not from ourselves, but from a very close friend that we have both traveled with and we knew for 14 some odd years. So very close bestie, and other things like that. So I think there's a lot more to hit there. And then the dumb things y'all say to us, because
well, not you guys necessarily, but
not our randos.
It could be one of you. So sorry, Grace, if you said something stupid.
Our randos out there,
you don't say stupid things about this kind of stuff as much, though. So I think you're safe.
Yeah, but in the meantime, y'all go do all the things. Go hit the like and the share and the follow, subscribe, because if you do that, sharing is caring. More people will as well. I'm going to say it because it's who I is. Smash the like button, broskies. So
that's, you know what? You sure tried, homie.
I did, homie.
But yeah, thank you guys
home slice.
For our friends that come back every week. Thank you guys so much. Again, we really appreciate your time. We are glad that you choose to share an hour of your week with us, give or take a few minutes. And for those of you who are new, welcome. And I hope to see you guys back here again. Well, not actually see you. I'm looking at my camera, but
she says see you.
We hope to see you.
It was a jab to me. No, just kidding.
It could be if you want.
See you again real soon.
Thanks, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Jeez.
Do you want me to do the hot dog dance?
Go for it.
No.
But yeah, like I said, we'll see you next week. Don't give me that look. Don't give me that look.
Do it.
I don't wanna.
All right, then don't. We have to have a new sign off.
See you back here next week for the Blithe and the Blind.
Bye guys.